Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your short take. So, a couple of little comments tonight about things on the news, and then a couple of comments tonight about personal experiences. One I had today, which was extremely unpleasant, but that didn't stop me from, delving into it. So let's first talk about things that have gone on. I would like to say that today would be a very good day to remember Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman ever to serve on the Supreme Court. She passed away at the age of 93. And while she was a conservative judge and a conservative person, Sandra Day O'Connor is most remembered by me for leading the majority in defending Roe back in 1992. Sandra Day O'Connor understood the difference between the Bible and the Constitution, and she also understood that while she did not believe in abortion personally, her job was to protect everybody's rights as they were spelled out in the Constitution. And no, abortion was not mentioned as a right in the Constitution. But then again, a lot of things weren't mentioned as a right in the Bible. In the Bible. Like owning guns, by the way, because back in Jesus's day, they stoned people. They didn't shoot them. So let me just say that I have the utmost respect for Sandra Day O'Connor. And she was not ruled by politics. She was ruled by law, by the Constitution, and by her job to protect people's rights. That's number one. Number two, George Santos, Anthony DeVolder, whatever his drag name was, met his final indignity today when he was expelled from Congress. Now, I'm not going to go through who voted what way, what Democrats voted against him, what Republicans voted against him. You know what? Let's look at this. George Santos was unlike any other corruption we have ever seen. Okay, we have had corrupt politicians before. Look, let's face some facts here. You guys all look at the whole political spectrum as though, well, they're politicians, they can't be corrupt, but they can be corrupt because anytime you have people involved, you have the potential for corruption. Because believe it or not, it's not just politicians who are greedy. The average American is greedy as well, okay? We have Americans who rail against capitalism day in and day out, but they cannot stop and take the steps necessary to help rein in capitalism because Americans like this shit. They like this shit, okay? If they didn't like this shit, there wouldn't be so many SUVs on the road and so many Mercedes and so many BMWs, okay? Americans like this shit. And there's a lot of Americans still buying from Amazon. So, but as far as Santos is concerned, let me just say this. There were people on the GOP side who voted to expel Santos, and I saw a myriad of articles saying that the Republicans finally reached their threshold with him. But these same Republicans who reached their threshold with George Santos are still backing Donald Trump, a man who has 91 criminal counts against him. A man who has 4 indictments alone in the January 6th case. An account is different than an indictment, just so you know. 91 criminal counts. A man who was certified by a judge as a rapist. in the E. Jean Carroll case. He is the front runner for the GOP nomination for the presidency of the United States. And the same people who are backing him and who will not turn their back on him expelled George Santos today. That's the ultimate in hypocrisy. Do I believe George Santos is a scumbag? I absolutely do. But I also believe that Donald Trump is not just a scumbag. He's a traitor. He's a rapist. He's a liar. And he's a grifter. And he is the #1 candidate for the GOP. Okay? I can say no more. And finally, I had a conversation today. You know, I walked into this conversation at work with a guy I've been working with for, I don't know, 5 years now almost. And we get along fairly well. But today, I lowered the boom on him. So I'm overhearing him talking about this guy who smells and, you know, he doesn't take a shower and he's this and he's that. And I'm finding out that this guy is a homeless person living on the streets of Woburn, where I work. And the conversation is, you know, I said to the guy, I said to him, I said, he smells because he's homeless. Lee, where do you think these people get to take showers? He doesn't have any place to live. He turns around and he goes to me, he's not homeless. He's got a car. He sleeps in his car. That's Lee's idea of a home. But that's not what Lee's home is like, though. Lee's got a hot tub. He's got a little shed where he does his work. He's got a house. He's got a house in Maine. He's the ultimate in white privilege, a white privileged male who can sit there and do things like this. This is what he did today. This is what he looks like on the street. I said, you know, Lee, the majority of people that are on the streets are mentally ill. I said, you guys really are over the top. And I got some news for you. I don't have any room for any of you people in my personal life. So while I may work with you here, I don't want to talk to you anymore about these topics, because if I do, you're going to get called out every time. Every time you open your mouth and open that door, I'm walking through. I was homeless at one time. Okay? I was homeless at one time, and I was never on the streets in the cold because I had my wits about me. And I knew how to fight to get what I needed. I needed a home for my kids. I had 2 kids at the time, and they had a mentally ill wife. Okay, I needed my wits about me. And I was also fighting for a home for all of us at a time when gay marriage was not recognized in Massachusetts. And it took a long time. We lived in a hotel. I sold everything I had, and we lived in a hotel for 6 months before we were placed. So when I see people berating and haranguing and insulting the homeless, I get really incensed, because there were so many people who were worse off than I was. I fed them on the streets of Boston just before COVID hit. I know who these people are, and I know what they're going through. And winter is here, and their lives get much worse at this time of year. So I'm not in the mood for any more of this bullshit from straight white men who have their heads shoved so far up their ass that they can't see daylight. Instead of insulting homeless people, try helping them. And I got nothing else to say tonight, because that last session there that I just put together in this video just set me off all over again. But hey, I'll be back tomorrow more than likely, because as we now see, there's almost something to comment on every day. Have a great night.